Listen up, beautiful nerds. In 1858, journalists investigating dairies in New York City found cows living in terrible conditions. They were living in their own feces, covered in sores and flies, and some were reportedly so weak, this is so savage, that they had to be held upright with ropes just to be milked. And the milk that they produced were being sold to families across New York City. And we actually have newspaper reports from the time in 1858 while the scandal was unfolding. New York Times reported an estimate 8,000 infants had died from swill milk in a single year. So what the hell is swill milk anyway? So here was the problem. New York City was expanding really fast. It was growing incredibly fast, which meant more people, which meant more demand for fresh milk, especially for children. But cows need space. And as New York grew, of course, land near the city became more expensive. Traditional dairy farms were pushed further away, and getting enough affordable fresh milk into the city became more expensive and difficult. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to get enough affordable milk into the city. But don't worry, because we had plenty of liquor. But I meant New York had a ton of distilleries. And when distilleries made alcohol from grains like rye, barley, wheat, it left a wet fermented grain mash known as swill. And it did have some nutritional value. Someone basically went, instead of throwing it out, we should feed it to the cows. According to my research, spent gray can be used as livestock feed, but the problem is what happened next. Because, you see, keeping cows right next to distilleries was cheap and convenient, not for the cows. But when journalists investigated these dairies, they found hundreds of cows packed into small, filthy stalls. And again, these cows were standing in their own feces, covered in flies and sores, developing illnesses, suffering from problems like rotting teeth, and being fed hot distillery water waste. And again, the part that is so sad to me, the whole thing is sad, but being held upright with ropes to be milked, that's how bad the situation was. That's how bad they were treated. Here we go again with the animals, which seems to be a pattern in this channel because they cannot catch a break from humans. Then in May 1858, Frank Leslie's Illustrated newspaper investigated this distillery dairies in Manhattan and in Brooklyn, and I'm glad they did. And here's something that I didn't even think about. Because how do you secretly document something like this? In 1858, photography existed, but the cameras were huge and bulky. The equipment was a pain in the ass. Like, how do you sneak in like that? So they did something which I think was really cool. And Illustrated newspapers had another option, artists. Duh. So they would send artists to sketch what they were seeing. This is so cool to me. And those sketches would later be turned into detailed illustrations for the newspaper. They were basically like human cameras. Harold, draw faster. I'm trying, damn it. Anyway, so those illustrations allowed the public to see how sick the cows were and how they were being treated, and these conditions that he were living in. And somehow, nerds, it gets worse, because of course it does. See, the milk that the cows were producing was poor quality. So instead of thinking, maybe we should sell this, they reportedly made the milk look better for better sales, adding a ton of ingredients to change the appearance and consistency of the milk. And the audacity was to market the milk as pure Orange County milk. Pure where? Now, unfortunately, the people paying the biggest price were children, and the New York Academy of Medicine investigated the connection between poor quality milk and New York City's horrifying infant mortality. And remember that 1858 New York Times article I mentioned is a primary source, which is pretty cool. It was written while the soy milk scandal was actually happening, and whoever wrote it was pissed Okay, the writer called the swill milk business detrimental to public health, which I agree with. They said no sane man could doubt it anymore and referred to what the industry was doing as their work of death. That's deep. The writer was basically asking, like, when yellow fever threatened New York City, the Board of Health met every day and took drastic measures. And then when cholera threatened the city, officials spent money and aggressively fought that too. But when swill milk was reportedly contributing to the deaths of thousands of children's crickets, and honestly, I completely understand why this person was so furious. You guys should read the article. He was pissed off. She. Now, eventually, public outrage over the swill milk helped push New York toward stronger milk regulation and food safety, which is a good thing. But despite the suffering, the investigation, the sick cows, and the children, and one extremely pissed off journalist, I'm sorry, nerds. This is yet another episode where we do not get the satisfying ending where everyone responsible gets sent to prison. Thank you for watching, my lovely friends. I am Glory from Archives of the Century. Stay safe, stay weird, stay curious. I'll see you in the archives, my historian friends.